Welcome to the Zao Strength Podcast. This is your host, Jim Ellie, and today we have a very special guest, Jessica Buettner from Canada. I actually learned today that it was Buettner. So from now on in my head, it's Jessica Buettner. And for everyone else, I hope this is right, because now that I'm officially saying Jessica Buettner, you're all going to have to start saying that when you talk with her. If you don't know who she is already, she's one of the strongest lifters in Canada ever live. And she's been training incredibly hard for a long time. She competed at last Worlds with Isabella von Weissenberg and track foo Kimberly Wofford. And I believe she placed second in one of the most competitive weight classes at IPF Worlds. And this year, she managed to win IPF Worlds in a new weight class with some pretty serious goals. She hit a deadlift PR, and she was able to get stronger through one of the craziest times that our generation has ever experienced, the COVID-19 pandemic. With gym closures around the world, ups and downs with our mental states and our mind, creating some level of sustainable training, it was really interesting to listen to her talk about how she's handled all of those moving targets when it came to training. We talk about how motivation is impacting her training approach and what she's done with her new coach, Eric Helms, to keep her in the game and keep her getting stronger despite, again, all the things that we experience and have experienced in the last few years that as powerlifters, we really did not know how to react to. I'm excited for you to listen to this episode of the Zao Strength Podcast. We started off with a question that I ask about, Jessica, how do you manage training and stay sustainable with your training approach through the chaos that you've experienced?
So I'll answer the sustainability part first. For me, sustainability is more mental. Like, it comes from the mind, more so for me. I mean, there's always the physical component about pushing yourself too hard, but I think that mental stress, I think the stress you have in your life really kind of dictates how you're going to be able to handle training and whether or not that training itself causes extra stress. So for me, if I'm busy with work, I know that I won't be able to push myself for long periods of time very hard, like for a meet prep, for example. So when I'm working 5 to 10 days in a row, I know I'll probably only be able to train 3 to 4 days a week if I'm not prepping for a comp. If I'm prepping for a comp, I'm going to force myself to train more and sacrifice a little bit of sleep along the way. But I won't be able to do that for more than maybe a couple months in a row. So for me, especially with COVID being so hectic with my job as a pharmacist and a pharmacy manager, I basically was training, probably 3 times a week, most weeks, just because it was really stressful and I had nothing that I was really prepping for. I also, my coach, actually Eric Helms, he's doing my programming for me. We basically did a very minimalist strategy, like the minimum amount of squat, bench, and deadlift it would take to just keep gaining strength throughout that period. And it actually was a lot less than I thought. Because I definitely think that just doing that and not taking weeks or months off and just training with taking a lot more days off was very helpful for me. And as far as the gaining weight goes, I've never been a huge fan of doing a bulk per se, because I never really thought it would be that helpful. Like the type of bulk where it's less controlled and it's not a lean bulk, it's just a bulk. I never really saw any value in that until I actually did it. I was trying to gain weight to see if I could hit 200 pounds and still be kind of happy with my body composition and strength and everything. It was going really well, actually, until I hurt my knee. And then that's when I started to think, okay, maybe I should turn this around, because I wasn't able to train as aggressively as I was before. And then I just started to gain a little more fat, and I wasn't getting any stronger. So that's when I decided to turn it around. But I was actually very happy with my body when I was able to train. I had tons of energy. I felt like I was getting so strong on squats. And I definitely think I gained a lot of muscle by doing that. I didn't think I would be able to gain quite that much, but I think it was very helpful for my strength, actually. And then the reason I decided to bulk to 200 and see if I could is because I thought worlds weren't going to be on, but then it was announced that they were, and I thought, oh my God, yeah, surprise! I better get going on this. So that's exactly what happened. And I also decided I was gonna quit my job. Well, not quit, but relocate anyways. And that
really?
Yeah. So
when did you decide that?
That happened. I actually decided in January, but I only really got the ball rolling at the end of July is when I moved back. I was working in North Battleford and as a pharmacy manager there. Now I moved to Saskatoon and I'm only working about 4 shifts a week right now, which is very nice. Very nice.
So I want to pull back to the sustainability bit because you brought up COVID and how that might have impacted you a little bit in terms of like, what's the focus of your training? You're not really working towards anything. And I think at that similar time is when you started working with Eric. Like, wasn't it like relatively early in 2019 or like mid 2019?
Yeah. So 2020 hit, I was lifting. I found some weights, was lifting in my living room. And then I hurt my back. I got a disc. It's kind of like a sprain, the way my physio explained it. So I decided, screw it, I'm going to do bodybuilding. And that's why I hired Eric. And then just to help my body get over that. And then he's continued on to help me do my powerlifting programming. Yeah. That's when that happened. It's about May 2020, I want to say. May or June.
So when everything kind of shut down, I mean, you're more involved in the health industry as a pharmacist, right? How did that impact your motivation to train? Like, did it change at all? Do you have an existential crisis or anything?
Not really, because as soon as the pandemic hit, I kind of knew things would be postponed. I didn't quite know for how long. It took a very long time for that to really set in for me. Because when the pandemic first started and everything shut down, I was almost way too motivated and kind of burned out, hurt myself a little bit. So it was a little bit of a crash and burn at the start. And then I think when it really hit me that that things weren't going to be back to normal was maybe winter or even this spring. I found it kind of depressing that things weren't back to normal. Because for me, I kind of thought it would take 1 year. So when that year hit and things are still getting canceled, that hit me the hardest for sure.
Did it feel better, knowing Worlds was still going on, or was it still kind of weird that Worlds was happening?
I didn't think it would happen because they were in Belarus. So. And then the U.S. decided not the U.S. I forget who decided they weren't going to go, but it didn't feel like they were going to happen for a while around springtime. And then they got rescheduled or relocated to Sweden, and they are going on, which is very cool. So I just found that very demotivating that in winter and spring, there was going to be nothing for 2021 is what it was looking like at the time. How about you guys? How did you feel about that aspect?
Yeah, I mean, I moved back into my parents' house. I think the last time we talked was right when I was moving back in to my parents. And I don't know. For me, it was very much about how can I sustain my coaching career? How can I keep my athletes motivated? How can I relate to them? Because so many people are losing, access to gyms, and they're losing their motivation. And there's so much conversation around what is it to be motivated by powerlifting? Why would someone be motivated? And I learned a lot for myself as a coach. And then I was well, I need to get a gym here because I didn't have one for a little bit. And then I'm like, you have some money. I never thought I was going to build a gym in my house or a squat rack and own one. I'm oh, that's for the mega nerds of powerlifting. I like powerlifting, but I love training at gyms. And then I was you know what? If you want to be a coach, you got to lift. I can't be a non-lifting, haven't powerlifted in 3 years and still coach powerlifting. So I invested into a squat rack and a barbell and plates and everything. And that get me excited. And then Yeah, that was difficult though, because a lot of why I like powerlifting especially is meeting people. Like, yeah, I like the lifting aspect of it. That's great, but I also love being a part of a community where there are people that like just training, like are nerds. Like I love nerds, and I feel like powerlifters are like the biggest nerds of the lifting world, because I don't maybe weightlifters are, but like bodybuilders like in general aren't as nerdy. Maybe they're with like food, but I feel like with like lifting, it's like we got to do the 3 count pause squat, and then we got to do the chest level pin press and whatever, so you can get stronger. I know Verena had a kind of a similar but different coping process for like the pandemic. You were training on your balcony for a while, weren't you?
Yeah. I was living in Germany back then. I just moved to the US 3.5 weeks ago. And during the first lockdown in Germany, I had no access to a gym, but I could go to a friend's like hut. I don't know, wooden cabin. And he had a rack and a deadlift platform, but I could only go there to train twice a week. So the other, I think 4 days a week. Yeah, I trained on my balcony using dumbbells and resistance bands. And at first, I kind of enjoyed it, like switching up my training routine. But after a few weeks, I was so done with it. I never want to use a resistance band ever again in my whole life. Like, no. And then the lockdown was lifted and we could go back to the gym again. I was so happy. And then the second wave came, or the second lockdown was announced, and I almost lost it. I was like, I cannot do this again. And luckily my friend with this wooden training room, this cabin, whatever this is called, like allowed me to come there 4 times a week. So I could do all my training with him, and could skip all the balcony training. And that was definitely better. I realized how I missed the community, meeting other people, and how lifting is a social aspect for me too. Not only lifting, even though I really enjoy that, but the social aspect is really important. But at the same time, I realized how important lifting is to me, because even though it was freezing cold in this cabin, and I was alone and I had to go early in the mornings, I was looking forward to it, and I went there every single session and never skipped anything. And that really showed me how I love the sport, even if the circumstances are not perfect. And yeah, I like that.
Jessica, did you feel like that at all? Like with the community shifting? I mean, like, I imagine you enjoy the community, but like, how did that part? I mean, the competition seemed like they're a big motivator for you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I like lifting at gyms as well, just for the space and not having to be super careful and stuff like that. And definitely seeing all the people. For us, gyms were only closed for about a month and a half at the beginning, and they've stayed open. But for me, I was living in a city about an hour and a half away, a smaller town. So I never really got as much of a chance to train at the gym as I would have. So, and then the gym in the small town, there was a commercial gym there, commercial kind of gym, but the atmosphere there sucks. So I just hated that place. So I just trained in my garage, which I definitely liked doing. It's just not as motivating, for sure.
Because you're alone and like it's cold and it's your garage.
Yeah, well, actually it was heated, so that part was fine. It was just like I had a really good setup actually, and I still do. It's just that I like being around people. I like having the stereo blasting, the music blasting in there. There's just something about the gym that I currently train at in Saskatoon, that's Rise Strength Club, that I just really like. Just the people and the environment, the facility, it's all good. I just, when it's in my own home, I'm not quite as, I'm definitely more inclined to skip things. My accessories for sure.
Yeah, me too. I feel like those are so hard to like I can always have like rows and pull-ups in my program, and like I have these dumbbells, but they're like the dumbbells that you put the weights on, and then you have a clip, like it's normal plates, but then like I jerry rig it so you can put like it's like a 50-pound dumbbell, but the wheel is like as big as my face, so it's like every time I get close to my shoulders, it's like gonna hit them. And I'm like, oh, I just don't want to do that, and then I don't want to drop them either. Like on my, there's so much you said earlier, like the space, like I have a pretty tight like laundry room that I train in, and I do it because I like training at home. There's a long story about why I don't train at the gym nearby, even though it's open, but it's just like I like the control about being at home, and I have better flexibility over my schedule. But like the accessory movements and stuff, definitely harder to get motivated for, because I want to go get food. Like I want to go to my pantry and eat, like I want to go grab some food. But one of the things that I thought was interesting is that when you switched over to working with Eric, and you started utilizing kind of a minimal effective training or minimal dose or whatever that is, I've been doing that a lot with my lifters, because almost like I would say 70% of my lifters experience some level of burnout, or like, I don't know if it was burnout, but when you don't have motivation for something, it's kind of hard to keep going. And whether that's, you miss the community, you miss the competition, you miss the like reason for training in general, and like that drive, it's hard to know like what to do. And sometimes the solution that people or lifters come up with is like, well, I'm going to stop training, or I'm going to do bodybuilding, or I'm going to do something else. Not everyone though just pivots. Some of them like, all right, well, gyms are closed.
It's funny because bodybuilders on the other way around, when they're burnt out, they come and start powerlifting.
Yeah.
That's how I started with powerlifting, because I was so burnt out from bodybuilding, and now I'm burnt out from powerlifting and go back to bodybuilding.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Like my back kind of hurts right now. I'm like, I should just do sets of 20 or sets, not 20, like sets of 10 or 15 for a while.
I should start a prep.
I should start meal prepping and then compete and get tanned up.
Yeah.
But okay, what I wanted to say was, what was it like for you to do less? Because like you were training like hard. You said you were super motivated prior to the pandemic. Like, what was the experience for you when you like transitioned into, all right, I'm doing 3 days a week training? Like, was it hard for you to let go of that high, I don't know what it looked like before, but maybe it was like high volume, high frequency, and now, or at the time when you switched, what was it like?
No, I definitely wanted that. I was so sick of doing high volume. Just because when there's nothing on the horizon for competitions, it was just hard for me to stick to. I just skipped half the things anyways, that I knew weren't absolutely necessary. Because I do know how to do my own programming. Like I've done I'm pretty sure I've paid for almost all of and done mostly all the Reactive Training Systems classroom sessions.
Mm-hmm.
So I do know how to do my own programming. I don't always get around to it. And I wanted a fresh perspective. And the minimal training was actually really, really good for me. And then I also started sumo deadlifting, which actually became my favorite day, because it just is way subjectively easier to lift the same amount of weight with. So yeah, I actually really enjoyed that for sure.
Because you're like almost like, oh, finally I can do less.
Pretty much, yeah. And it was cool to see that I would still maintain a lot of my squat strength. That's the one I thought would drop the most, but it actually stayed pretty up there.
Did you actually notice a drop in your lifts when you went to the minimum training style, minimalist?
Kind of. Yeah, I think deadlifts weren't as good. But bench and squat were actually pretty much the same, which surprised me. I thought those would be the ones that would drop and deadlift would stay, but it was actually the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, because sometimes people will notice like they're even getting stronger, but it doesn't sound like you notice like did you notice a benefit to your strength? It was just like maintenance.
Pretty much just Well, I think it was maintenance until I started amping it up a little bit. For squats, maybe I saw an increase. I think for squats I saw an increase just from gaining a little bit of weight, but it was pretty much just maintenance, which I think is definitely a good thing though, because it's really hard to build back up once you've lost a lot of strength, I find.
I feel like people are afraid of like maintaining their strength. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard like people talk about their plateaus and like, oh, I'm plateauing and I can't push past this number. Like, how do you feel about that like concept?
It definitely irked me to not be hitting any PRs for over a year. But I wasn't really lifting anything heavy for singles. So I'd kind of just remind myself that I wasn't really pushing for anything, and that I usually hit PRs when I'm pushing for those lifts. But yeah, it did definitely bug me. I'm sitting there thinking, man, I haven't hit a deadlift PR. I haven't hit a squat PR in a long time. For me anyways, because usually I compete at least 2 or 3 times a year.
It almost seems like the competition itself, like, okay, it's a question. I don't want to assume. Do you think it's the competition that you're prepping for that drives you to hit PRs? Or do you think it's like just doing more work that drives you to hit the PRs? It could be both, but like, yeah, I'm kind of curious about like, what do you find to be the conditions in which you can hit a PR on these, because you're pushing world record lifts on some of these lifts, right? So like hitting a PR for you isn't just like for someone that just started in the gym. You know what I mean? Like, what do you need to do to get yourself in that space where you can lift more than you ever have in the past?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think because in order to get those PRs, especially in competition, I've pushed myself so hard in the past that I do need some sort of external motivator to get myself on that same level. Like whether that's a competition or whether that's an online, I don't know, comp, or just even something I said I was going to do on social media. I need some level of external motivation for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like that's something that a lot of the lifters that I'm coaching, like, that are competing all the time, like if they don't have competition, they're going to figure out a way to convince themselves that there's a competition. Like I was working with Crenton, and like he's like, can we just do like a mock meet every month? Because like, what are we doing here? But so when you switched into like, all right, we got Worlds coming up, what's changed in your training? Like, how is it training similar to, your CPU Nats prep, like from 2019 or 2020? Like, how has it been in comparison with a new coach, a new strategy? Is there any differences in like total volume? Are you more fatigued, less fatigued?
Probably less fatigued, which is interesting. It's less of a weight cut for sure. And definitely a little less on the accessories front too, but I think that's what I need in order to really give it my all on the competition lifts.
Mm-hmm.
Because and what's different now is that I'm a little bit more able to fit it into my normal schedule. So what I mean by normal schedule is not have too many lifts where it's going until like 1 or 2 in the morning. Because for my Nats prep, I was definitely having a lot of those days. So I think I'm more rested because I'm sleeping a little bit better. I also have Eric doing my nutrition programming, which I never had a coach for before. And that's helped a lot because
really?
There's just a lot of factors. I mean, I would say compared to especially the average person, just being type 1 diabetic and tracking macros since I was probably carbohydrates since I was 11, but macros since I was probably 15 or 16. I know how to do that, but it's really nice to have someone so knowledgeable who also helps me track other factors too, like weighing myself every day at the same time, charting my 2-week average weight loss. He helps me as well as calories and tracking step count instead of doing a lot of cardio. So yeah, that's another thing that's changed a lot is I'm just watching my step count now, and I'm not actually doing like an hour on the stair climber about 3 or 4 times a week to try and lose that weight. Although it is less weight I have to lose. Yeah, other things like tracking protein as well, like in my actual spreadsheet, just to keep me aware. Those sorts of things. Like it's all sorts of little things that you even think make that big of a difference, but they really do, as far as not, because it's important to not, there's many ways to get towards a goal, but when you only have limited time and energy, it's important not to waste those going off in other directions.
I feel like Verena and I talk a lot about like different ways to modify, monitor food intake, and one of the things that I haven't done in a while is track my food. I mean, I do, but like similar to you, I've been tracking since I was 16 as well, at least until I was like 22. And then at some point, I started traveling, and I'm like, I just really don't want to be bothered with this. Like, all right, I had 3 ham slices from the deli and a loaf of bread and then a protein drink. Like, whatever, man. If I get stronger at that point for myself, like while the goal isn't on maximizing, outcomes, I usually feel better. And I do think it's harder for people to like lose weight and keep it off. But like as a competitor, like how do you relate to that aspect of, this is kind of what Verena has been trying to talk about, is like, how are you relating to your body as you track every single day and you're looking at probably the mirror and also the weight on the scale? Like, do you feel like, are you emotionally attached to it at all?
It's actually been, well, for me, it's different because with type 1 diabetes, like, I've been tracking macros and calories pretty consistently throughout most of my life now. Like actually the majority of the 26 years I've been on this planet, which is more than a lot of people can say, even competitive bodybuilders, and even when I'm not tracking like my whole day, I'm literally always tracking each meal. Like I have to know at least the carbohydrates, if not a rough estimate of the fat and protein in every single meal I'm eating, which having to do that it certainly is stressful, but it's not necessarily, I think that's something for me when I go to compete and I have to plan out my weight loss and everything. It's not that much of an extra stress because it's something that I'm already doing. Mm-hmm. It's actually more stressful to me when I'm bulking because I find it so hard to be disciplined. And I'll just end up taking like random amounts of insulin and just like waiting to see if my blood sugar gets low or not, and then eating more if I do. So I find it better to have to calculate more and be more careful with my diabetes as well. So it's actually not as big of a stress. What I hate to see is losing mass from my lower body, which always freaking happens when I cut weight. I like, ever since I started powerlifting, I just like having bigger legs and building like, especially lower body strength too, just because, I don't know, I like the look of it and I like being strong. And I hate to see mass coming off of my lower body because I like my shape when I'm at a little bit of a heavier body weight. So that's kind of hard for me to see. And then having to watch the scale is definitely stressful because I know if weight's not coming off, I'll have to go the extra mile and do either more exercise or less food and try and lose weight in a short period of time, which is never good. I do feel really prepared for this cut going into Worlds, though. For Nationals in 2020, it was definitely one of my worst body weight and water cuts. So I learned from that. And this time around, I'm feeling better about it. Verena, do you ever struggle with that, especially from the bodybuilding side?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when I was younger, I had an eating disorder. So I was anorexic. So that's basically the starting point of all. And then, yeah, on the one hand, this eating disorder got me into fitness because fitness helped me eating more at first, because I knew I can only make gains, gain strength, and look more muscular if I eat enough. So that really helped me get out of my eating disorder. But then I was still super focused on my looks. So I was always focused on my aesthetic goals rather than my performance goals for the longest time. And I always tracked every single piece of food that I ate into my fitness pal, and that stressed me out. And I weighed myself every day. And every time I saw the scale going up, even if it was just 100 grams or something, my whole day was ruined already. And with this kind of mindset, I started into a bodybuilding prep, which was probably not the best idea. And at first it went well. For the longest time, it went really well. But 3 weeks out, I had a mental breakdown, like a complete mental breakdown. I could not go any further. I was so drained mentally and physically as well, because I was 3 weeks out. I was really lean at this point. And I could just not keep going. And I fell back into old eating disorder patterns and thought patterns and behaviors. And that was the point when I knew I need to stop. I cannot push it any further because I will end up in the hospital again. And I did, in fact, go to the hospital because I was in such a bad mental state. And what I did after, so this is 2 years ago, is I completely stopped tracking. And ever since, I've never really tracked my food again until this week, because I have an assignment from university, from one of my classes, to track my macros. And at first I was a bit nervous how that would make me feel, because again, for the past 2 years, I never tracked anything. I started intuitive eating, and that really helped me with my relationship, healing my relationship with food and my body. But so far, I kind of like it. I kind of like tracking my macros, and I'm trying to gain some weight, and yeah, to push my goals a little further, because I'm kind of lean year round, and I want to gain some more muscle mass. And I know that I need to eat more, but I just can't, especially because I'm so deep in the intuitive eating mind state that I just don't feel the urge to eat more than what I'm actually hungry for. So maybe I will go back to tracking for a while just to make sure I eat enough to gain some weight. I think that could be helpful for me at this point. And that's a completely new perspective. I really love how it changed, because at first I was nervous that tracking would put me back into that old mindset of, seeing my body not as my home or like a good place to be in, but rather this physical aspect of me that I need to manipulate in order to be enough and to look good and to feel good. And that changed. I feel more like a friend of my body that I want to take care of. And yeah, even if I start tracking now, or at the moment, I'm only tracking my breakfast. So week 1 of the assignment was just write down everything you eat. Week 2 is track your breakfast. Week 3 is track your breakfast and lunch, and so on. So I think that's kind of a smooth introduction back into tracking. And I just observe how it will go, how it makes me feel, and then decide what I'm doing next. Yeah. But I really like your perspective how you approach this whole thing when it comes to your body. Like it seems like you're not, what's the word? You're not disconnected from your body, but you're also not focused on what your body looks like, but more of what it does for you. I don't know if this is correct, but that's such a lovely perspective. And that's what I'm aiming for to build too. And that means sometimes your body changes and looks different throughout the year or over the years. And that's completely cool and that's completely okay. And you accept your body in all states, whether you have more or less weight, whether you are more or less lean. And I really love that.
Oh, so thank you. You got it exactly right. That's what powerlifting has done for me. Because I guess I should have mentioned that, having to always track macros has definitely been hard on me, especially when I was younger, like high school, first few years of university for sure. Because I was more focused. I was just always focused on weight loss. I was on the track team, and everyone who did the same events as I did. So pole vault was my main event. Everyone was way lighter than me and also taller. I've just naturally always weighed more than most people who I think anyways are around the same size. Not sure why that is, but it's just the case. So I was always trying to lose weight. And the thing about trying to lose weight all the time is I never really realized that it doesn't change your shape the way you want, because you can't control where the fat or the muscle comes off. And then I started powerlifting, and that just changed everything for me, because not only was I focusing more on performance than what it looked like, but it was actually changing my shape into what I wanted without planning it. Like I always have very narrow hips, and I always hated that and thought I looked very boxy. But ever since I started powerlifting, it's kind of evened that out, which I really like. And it was an unexpected side effect, like a bonus. But yeah, powerlifting's been really good for me as far as tracking food, just thinking of it purely as a performance thing, and then also for health with my diabetes. It's been way better for me than the way I used to use it, which was just weight loss pretty much.
Yeah, it's so cool. So for how many years have you been powerlifting?
Oh, now it's been about, the very first time I ever tried powerlifting was about 8 years ago, although I didn't really commit to it for 3 or 4 years, like fully commit. I was still doing a lot of track and field and a little bit more focused on that. But it's always longer than I thought. Like 8 years sounds like a long time. And it is, I guess. I always did a lot of Olympic lifting for track in the middle of that as well. So it kind of helped.
But how did you get introduced to powerlifting when you were doing track and field before?
I sprained my ankle snowboarding, and it was a bad one. It was a high ankle sprain. So my boot was on loose. I tried to do a jump on just flat ground, and I just ate it, and my foot rolled over really hard. So I couldn't really pole vault or do any of the running stuff in track. So I just had a friend that was doing, I think it was Saskatchewan, like our provincial meet. And he just told me to do it. And I kind of just trained with him in the gym. And it turned out I was good at powerlifting. So I kind of...
Imagine being that friend and you bring your friend to the gym, and a few years later, she's one of the world's greatest powerlifter ever. This is
It's funny because I sprained my wrist. That's how I got from snowboarding. That's how I got into it. I wish my story turned out. But it's like, you have these limitations, and like I don't know. I wonder if you ask like 80% of the powerlifters why they started. I wonder how many of them were like, well, I was doing this one sport that required a lot more movement, and then either I didn't like it, but we had to strength train, or I hurt myself doing that sport, and then I started lifting because that's all I could do.
Oh yeah, 100%. Recently, actually this year with COVID, I tried snowboarding again for the first time in 8 years, and it actually went well. So comes right back to you. But
Where'd
I
you go?
was nervous because I was the mountains are about an 8 hour drive away from where I live, so we just take some weekend trips. Like we went to Lake Louise, we went to Panorama, I went to Lake Louise a couple times, I think. And then there's a hill where in the place I was living to, like a small one. But yeah, I was really nervous the whole time. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking, watching videos of powerlifters do other sports and just falling over super hard. And I was just thinking, don't let that be you.
Yeah, because you have another risk factor of just like trying something. So this is actually a question I wasn't expecting to ask, but like when it comes to new things, being I don't want to like put you in this box. Like you can be whatever you want, but currently you're really good at powerlifting, right? Does it make you nervous to do new things like snowboarding? Like I guess it did in that situation, but like do you find that you kind of keep your activity to the things you're used to and to avoid injury, or do you not really think about it like that?
I definitely think about it if there's a meet within about 3 months, I would say I'd be more careful for sure. But in COVID, I was still definitely really nervous to go snowboarding. But I don't know. I just like once you get out there, it's just a lot of fun. And then in the mountains, there's way more. I'm actually more nervous to snowboard locally in the crappy small hills because they're very icy versus the mountains where there's more powder when you get way up to the top. I'd way rather fall down in that. Although there's certain sports that I'm definitely very nervous about. Like I have friends that mountain bike and they want me to come along. I'm probably gonna do it, but I won't let them push me too hard for sure. After Worlds for sure, like not before. But things like rock climbing, like the indoor kind, like the wall climbing. I like doing stuff like that. As long as it's not a super high risk activity, I'm okay with doing it. I even played indoor soccer this last year for the first time again in probably 8-9 years. Yeah, I don't know.
That's so cool. I interrupted you guys just talking about the kind of weight body relationship, but I do find that shifting kind of into like other territories are uncomfortable. I remember when my own anecdote is for what it's worth, I suppose, but just there's that attachment to the sport that kind of makes you feel like if you're spending energy in other places and you're not giving it your all into this thing that you said you're going to do, if you're going to Worlds, it makes sense, right? You minimize the risk and hopefully you have a good outcome. Verena, do you feel like you did that at all with like when you transitioned into powerlifting? Because you're relatively new within the competitive side of it, but like, I don't know, how do you relate to kind of new activities in that sense?
So for some time, I was really scared to try out anything new because I was always scared I could hurt myself and then had to, like, I don't know, wouldn't be able to train for weeks or even months. But now I came to conclusion, I don't want to sacrifice. I'm already sacrificing a lot for the sport. I'm sacrificing a lot of time, energy, and also money on that sport, and I love it. But I don't want to sacrifice trying out new fun stuff. So I probably won't go free climbing or some really weird and dangerous stuff. But if I feel like trying out pole dance or something, I just want to do it. And yeah, I just want to give myself the freedom to try out new stuff and explore new areas of life and find something that is, gives me joy besides of powerlifting and going to the gym. And I think that can be even helpful for the sport, for powerlifting or bodybuilding or whatever I'm focusing on right now. I'm not quite sure. Because it gives me a break. it is a sport that I enjoy, or any other sport can be like something that I enjoy without having to push myself so hard and without having this pressure in the back of my head and without having the urge to perform perfectly, but just move my body for the pure enjoyment. And yeah, but it's not like that I have a lot of time to do a million other things.
Yeah.
But I don't want to hold myself back when I'm interested in something else anymore. Yeah.
For sure. I totally agree with that. Like if you're, I mean, it's different if you have a competition coming right up, but if you're letting powerlifting take over your life like that, yeah, there better be at a super high level. And even then, you just gotta enjoy life. I mean,
you're at a super high level, so it's different from me though. But
well, not really though. I think that, I mean, maybe coming up to worlds and stuff like that, but I mean, just in everyday life, you got to enjoy it. Otherwise, you're just, I don't know. That's just life. You got to enjoy it a little bit. May not be that, you never know how long it's going to be. So
yeah,
just got to enjoy it.
Have you found other like aspects? I mean, sounds like you've been exploring a little bit in terms of your activities. Have you found that like life enjoyment has kind of modulated a little bit the last year and a half in terms of like vision casting and thinking about the future and what you want to do? Like, how have you, so we talked about sustainability earlier, and one of the things that it seems like for sustainability to work is that you're enjoying the thing that you're doing. Have you shifted that perspective at all in the last few months, years, 2 years?
Yeah, maybe in the last 2 years. Actually, I remember a turning point for me actually was at Commonwealth in 2019, like end of the year, probably November, I think. I remember talking to Brett Gibbs, and then he asked me what I did for fun, and it hit me so hard that I could not think of one single thing, like not one thing in my life that I actually thought was fun and that included training. So that really hit me. So after that, I decided, okay, I better force myself to do a couple different activities a month. Try and be more social too, although that was kind of hard because I was living far away. But after that, yeah, I started trying things like Olympic lifting and cross-country skiing. And then it definitely did improve my general enjoyment of life, as much as work was still stressful. But yeah, just committing to doing a couple fun things, at least like 1 or 2 a month was my goal, just because I was so busy at the time. But that really just improved my general outlook on life, for sure.
I literally had a therapist, conversation with my therapist this Monday, and I realized something similar. Like, so much of my own life is like, I want to get this business off the ground, and I want to help my athletes get stronger, and I want other people, I want to like do something for like the external so much that I sometimes forget about how it feels to be not like a child, but you know, when you're a kid and you just like do so many different things and it doesn't matter because you have like your whole life. And like, we're all in our 20s, but even then it still feels like, for me, sometimes it feels like, oh no, like I'm on my path. I'm a powerlifting coach now, which is hilarious. Like, I always laugh at that in my head. I'm like, wait, what the hell? But I love it. And so there's these activities that I'm like, oh shit, I used to play basketball all the time when I was younger. I stopped because I got cut from the basketball team because I was too small. And then that's why I decided to dedicate my life to becoming wider. And so I was like, I don't want to play basketball. I'm just going to lift. And then I just did nothing but lift and learn about like nutrition sciences and powerlifting science. And like, it is good. But like you said, it's like I talked to my therapist and she said, well, what if you tried to do a few things for yourself this month that have nothing to do with your business or with powerlifting or even with like, yeah,
like
that's
productivity in general.
Yeah.
I feel like whatever I do, I try to be productive doing it.
Yes.
And I really try to include more things that I do just for the purpose of doing them and not to achieve an external goal, get validation, perform somehow. Just do like read a book, not to gain knowledge, but just to enjoy reading this book or listening to the podcast, or I don't know, go for a walk, not to like get the steps in, but because I enjoy walking in the nature, and I get my steps in like doing that as well. But I'm doing it not for the purpose of achieving something, but just enjoying the activity itself.
Getting your steps in.
Mm-hmm.
I went on a bike ride today for like
you had a really cool helmet. I saw it on Instagram.
Yeah, it's the classic helmet. Had it for like 6 years, and I always rock it and I take a picture because it makes me feel like a kid, I guess, and it's so funny. But it's like and when I was biking, I saw a basketball court and I was like tearing up, like, oh, I could do that. I could play basketball again. Like, let's go. I am always weirdly nervous though that I'll like have a hip pain or something with these. Like my girlfriend Abby like wants me to go running with her, and I'm like as averse to running as like I could with like any activity. She's like, why not? And I'm like, I don't really know why, but there's something about running that is like the antithesis of who I am. I don't know if you feel that way about. I mean, you play soccer, so maybe it's not as challenging for you to get yourself to run.
I don't mind jogging. I don't mind running actually, but I don't like doing it for sustained long periods of time. I'll just do like little interval runs with my dog because she likes when I run with her. Actually, she's very cute.
A big foofy. Oh my god.
Oh, she's so big.
Oh, she's got such a cute. Is it a girl?
Yep.
She got such a cute face.
Oh my god.
She's like, let me down.
Wow. She's got such pretty eyes.
She's a little cutie. She's sleepy right now.
How do you manage?
I took her for a walk out in the leaves.
Going to work, working out and walking your dog and taking care of her.
I get up real early. I get up real early in the morning and take her for a good walk at the dog park so she can play with other dogs. And then I usually try and work some evenings because I live with my sister, so she can feed her at night, and that way I won't leave her alone for that long. So she'll feed her, and then sometimes like there's people going in and out of my house, so they can sometimes walk her, or else I'll just walk her when I get home from work at night. So she's never left alone for that long.
Yeah.
Do you find that waking up early has been kind of like a key for managing all the chaos? Like, you don't have a lot of chaos, I suppose, but like you got a lot of serious things, a lot of energy that you put into a lot of things. Do you find that like you need to wake up at like 6:30 or like 5:30? Like, what's your?
I'm not that much of a morning person.
Okay.
But I just find I just got to get up and get moving. So it's not that early. Like most of the time, the earliest I would wake up would probably be like 6:30, depending on when I work. Actually, 6 or 6:30. But I feel like an absolute piece of shit if I wake up late. I think I share that with a lot of people. Because then you just have the worst start to the day. But like today, for example, but I didn't really sleep in that late. I only slept until like maybe 9. And I was up. I was working. I got in from work at midnight yesterday. So it's not like a crazy amount of time, but still, I don't like it.
Yeah.
How about you guys?
I don't know what Verina's up to, but I've been telling myself I need to wake up till 6:30. At 6:30, I've been telling myself that for like a few months. And when I went to California to meet up with Ryan, who's like the co-owner of Ouroboros Nutrition, I like had a panic attack or something, and I was like, there's so many things I'm trying to do all at once, and I feel like I can't get anything done, and I'm trying to figure out why. And I realized that one thing was just like consistency in my wake up and my nighttime routine. Like it was just all over the place. Some days I go to bed at 1:30, some days I go to bed at 10. I'd always wake up at like weird hours and I was never energized. And so part of that process has been good, but I haven't yet gotten to sleep at like 10:30, which is what I would need to do to get up at 6:30 and get like 8-9 hours of sleep. I've been going to bed around 11 every night, which I don't know. I wake up at the same time every morning, which is nice, but I want to go to bed earlier and want to wake up earlier because, like you, it's just I feel kind of like the day's going. Like people are doing shit and people have calls, and I don't like feeling stressed to get to my next thing. Like I want to feel like I've processed it fully. I'm like visualizing it. I can breathe in the morning. I can meditate or whatever, and then get to the next thing.
Definitely part of the reason why I'm working like 3 to 4 shifts a week is also so I get to spend more time with my dog and actually enjoy things. Makes life a lot easier for sure. I just find that I got to force myself to wake up, and then that'll help me get to bed the next day. As long as I don't wake up later than 8:30, I can still feel good and productive for myself.
Yeah, it's the same for me. So I try to stand up at around 6 normally and get to bed at 10. And my natural inner clock tells me to go to bed at 11 and wake up at 8. So it's not that easy for me. But also, I don't want to wake up later than 8, because if I wake up later than 8, my day is like, I feel like trash. I feel so tired. I'm like, I slept too much. So I got past this point of being awake and fresh to this part where you just feel like unenergetic. Is this a word? I don't know.
Like, now.
So tired and trashy.
Yeah, and I feel so bitchy too, because I'll sleep 12 hours, and then someone will say, oh, are you tired today? And I'll be like, no, I got a full 12 hours actually. And I feel like I'm tired though. So I'm super bitchy about it. That's one of my least favorite questions of all time.
Are you tired? You look tired.
Yeah.
Stop asking me.
No, I just look like trash because I am trash. It has nothing to do with my sleep schedule. Shut up.
Don't ask me about that if you're not literally sleeping in the same room as me. That's my rule. Jessica, how did you manage to deal with your bag thief?
Oh, I'm sad I forgot my purse, but I did manage to. So I got him. I was about to go to the gym. I got back from my dog walk with Blue. I parked my car in the alley because there was no spots out front, and I thought I locked it, but maybe I didn't, or else maybe the guy was watching me and he got my door before I locked it. Anyways, went in the house for about 10 minutes, came back out. Car smelled like cigarette smoke. So I thought, oh no, I knew immediately. Someone had a soup kitchen in here. So I thought to myself. And then I looked in the back. Sure enough, my gym bag was gone. And it's the only thing I really noticed. So I just hopped out of my car, screamed because I was mad, and then started running because I knew he would be, I didn't see anyone, but I knew he wouldn't be that far away. So I started running down the alley, and sure enough, like 3-4 houses down, he was taking apart my bag in the crack between an apartment building and a fence. So I just like ran up to him and tried to grab my bag and got my stuff. And he wasn't really resisting either because he knew he shouldn't be stealing. And then once I calmed down a bit and stopped kind of yelling at him, I just took pre-workout. So I was just absolutely raging, just so mad, like biggest adrenaline rush of your entire life. Honestly, I was trying to ask him, like, do you have any more of my things? And I'm trying to bargain with him, like, if you give me my things, I don't even care. Just give them back. I'm not going to call the police on you. And then he pulled a bunch of stuff out of his pocket. So I thought that was it. But I forgot that my purse was in the car. And same with my notebook that has a tax return in it. Bunch of personal info, which is lovely. So yeah, I let him go, took a video of him walking away, and then found out that stuff was missing about 10 minutes later. Thought, damn it. And then I did call the police on him, and that's the end of that. But God damn it, it felt good to get my gym bag back. I was so happy to get my gym bag back. Like, I just went and squatted and had an amazing squat session just because I was so fired up. I was fired up for the whole day. It was pretty great.
I feel like adrenaline. I've had like really good squat sessions after someone pisses me off on Instagram. Like someone like really grind my gears on Instagram, and then I'll go and like lift and I like kill it, but I'm like super fatigued as well because I'm like, you're like, how fatigued are you today? Like, are you like pretty stressed? Or not stressed, but like, are you like, is your body sore today from that session?
No, actually, it was weird. Because I took the elemental, the prime pre, it lasts such a long time. I was so keyed up for my whole shift at work almost.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really calm down until probably 6 p.m. And the whole thing happened around 10:30.
Oh, wow.
I was just keyed up all day, which was weird because normally with that adrenaline rush, you burn out. But I just didn't yesterday. I was coming off a deload week as well, so I still feel pretty good. But I didn't overdo it. I did an honest RP 8.5 singles on squats.
Yeah. Verena, I have one question left for Jessica, but since you have to go in 7 minutes,
yes.
What questions do you got? What's remaining on your mind? This is a hot seat.
So that brings us back to the body image topic, but I wanted to ask you if you ever receive like mean messages from people commenting on your body or what you look like or what you lift like, and what does that do to you? Like, do you feel bad about yourself, or aren't you bothered at all? Bothered. Yeah.
Well, it happens a lot less now. For some reason, even a few years ago, it just seemed to happen a lot more. I don't know why, but still happens a little bit. I don't feel overly I don't usually feel bad about it or anything anymore, because it's usually people with like a private account and not necessarily even real people. They're just trying to get a rise out of you. So, I mean, I don't even, it doesn't bother me personally. So it doesn't hurt me personally that someone is thinking, oh, you have muscle, you're too manly. Because the context of that is you're too manly for me. And I look at this guy and I'm like, oh no, dude, like you look like my pinky. I don't find that attractive, but I'm not going to go out of my way to say it to you. What pisses me off is that people go out of their way. So it does make me angry in a sense that they go out of their way to say something shitty, because I didn't go to their profile and say, you have tiny calves, you look like you couldn't do half a push-up, and I really don't find your hairstyle attractive. I didn't go do that because it's just not a good thing to do. So I don't know why other people have to do that to strangers.
What people, like, what drives people to send a message to someone just to tell them that they don't like what they look like? Like, hey, just mind your own business. Why do you spend your time on typing that message? Just unfollow me or fuck off. I don't know. But
yeah, I know. It's like, it's basically a message that when you take it to its core, I don't find you sexually attractive. Well, that's cool. I don't care.
Okay.
Nobody cares.
Don't find you sexually attractive either. So cool. We agree.
Nobody.
It's always women who get that more than men, which is frustrating in a strength sport. But like when you see a video of a woman who is larger in physical size, there's always a million comments that are so negative, like commenting on her body weight, commenting on all that stuff. When you go to a guy who's really heavy set, lifting heavy weights, there's very few of those comments, which is still a discrepancy that I just hate to see, because powerlifting is not about looks. It's about what your body can do. So we still have a gap to fill in there, but goddamn strangers just ruining people's day. It doesn't really ruin my day. Doesn't really ruin my day, but I do get a little ticked off sometimes. That's kind of the extent. Never really wrecks my day. Sometimes I take out my anger if I'm having a bad day, and I'll go reply to those people and kind of rip them apart a little bit, and it makes me feel better. So it's, So if you ever see me wilding a little bit on the internet, it's usually because I'm not having the greatest day and I have all this negative energy I need to take out on someone. But they always have to do something first. Yeah, nothing bad.
I never say. I just wanted to I just hate. I don't know why guys are so. Maybe I have an idea, but it's like people are so unable to figure out how to be themselves that they find other people to like almost justify their lack of feeling good about themselves. You know, it's like, well, I hate myself, so I'm gonna go make Jessica or Verena feel bad about their day because nobody likes me. Like literally, you know what I mean? Like that's literally it, almost 97% of the time. I never get anyone telling me about my body. Like if anything, guys tell me guys just tell me I look good, but no one tells me anything about, like if I were to get, even when I had eyeliner on my eyes, I put some eyeliner on my eyes for my stream. No one even said anything negative to me. And like, I don't want negative thoughts in either direction, you know, but I think there's a lot of privilege that you get as a powerlifter, as a guy in this sport and in general in life. Women, especially that are trying to like do things that are different and out of the norm, just get so much attention and hate from that attention because it's awesome. And it's also like, ooh, let's bring down the women today. That's
yeah. But I have to admit, I don't get a lot of body shaming comments that go into the direction of you're too manly or you're too big or too muscular. But I get sexualized a lot, which is not cool either. Like, I'm not doing this for you. I'm not doing this for you to look at me and find it appealing. I don't care about you. I do it for myself. And yes, I was focused on my looks for the longest time, but I'm not that focused on my outer appearance anymore. And I'm doing this because I love it. And the looks that I get, the muscle, is a byproduct. And just don't tell me anything. You don't have to come into my comments or to me personally in the gym and sexualize me. My body is not an invitation for you to comment on. So, yeah. Even they try to be like nice, they're not nice because otherwise they would say something like you have a like
nice squat,
or something.
Good
and
job.
Not like your ass is amazing.
Yeah,
I know, but don't comment on me.
Well, Jessica, I want to thank you for being on the episode today. You're only our third guest of the podcast, so I was happy that you agreed. I hope that, you know, if there's anything that you want to say to like women who are trying to get into the sport, like given kind of this transition of the conversation, what would you say to them in terms of what it's going to feel like and what you got to get through?
Oh, I would just say strength training is for literally everyone. And there's so much benefit to it in life, not just for how you look, but how you feel. And don't be too intimidated. Just dive right in. Like, there's lots of good resources on the internet to research technique and how you should train. So use that. Use knowledgeable people at your local gym and just dive right in.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Verena, I hope you don't get locked out of your classroom. Jessica, I'm really excited.
I will hurry to my class now.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see how you do at Worlds. I wish you could be there. I would have gone, but I don't think a coach that isn't competing is allowed from the US, so that sucks. I'll be watching live stream. How can people find you? Are there any things any like links or people that you want people to be aware of? Things that they need to be aware of to find you?
Find me on Instagram, which is my full name plus a D in front of it, Jessica Buettner. And I'll be posting the World's live stream on there. There's a lot of weight classes that are going to be really competitive, so I encourage everyone to tune into those. They're coming up starting somewhere around the 20th of September all the way till October 3rd. So I'm looking forward to that. And thanks for having me on the podcast.